Hey guys, what is up? It is No Help and welcome back to another video today. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about how Ironman made me a good player. Now, by no means am I a great player or one of the best in the game, but I would say I'm about average at almost all of the content in the game. And this was never the case before, like pre-EOC times, I kind of just did what I felt like doing, and I've always been the type of player that likes skilling and kind of going for 99s and maxing out accounts. The problem with playing a main account is I always focused on GP, making as much gold as possible. I thought gold was the answer to solving everything. With enough gold, I could buy all the skilling supplies I needed for my skills, I could buy the best gear I needed to train Slayer or do bosses with, and you know, with money, you could realistically do anything. So I set myself the goal way back in the day to just make a ton of money. But I started doing these weird methods to make money, like making unfinished potions, or doing these like simple activities like collecting, snape grass, whatever it was back in the day. These simple activities that made you a lot of money, but at the same time, you didn't really get anything out of it, right? You didn't gain experience, and it's not like you were collecting these secondary ingredients to make potions. You were just collecting them to sell to the Grand Exchange for other players. And then you start to look at everything in the game as a value, like a number, right? So if I got, say, a Dragon Hunter crossbow, I would look at it as 60 mil. I wouldn't look at it as I learned the Chambers of Xeric, grinded my way, learned all the mechanics, went through some tough times, but eventually got the goal or got the item that I had in mind. Instead, I just went and did some various methods like farming, making unfinished potions, doing a bit of Slayer, saved enough money up and bought it, right? So I used other ways of actually getting money and then obtaining the item rather than just learning the piece of content and trying to get the item myself. Now, I always use the Rune Scimitar as a great example of this, right? Now, the Rune Scimitar is an item that is for low-level accounts to train, say, Strength and Slayer with. And it's only about 15,000 GP. So, on a fresh account, you could probably get this in about 20 to 30 minutes. Enough money to go to the Grand Exchange and buy it, right? But as an Ironman account, you can't exactly do that. Now, there's a few various methods of getting it, but I always use the traditional, killing fire giants and whatever it is in order to get the Rune Scimitar. I think there is a better option to do so now, but the Rune Scimitar is a 1 out of 128 drop from the fire giants, so you either have to get really lucky or kill about 128 of them to receive the Rune Scimitar. Now, you don't look at the Rune Scimitar as a 15k drop. You look at it as, say, 2 to 3 hours of progress in order to get this item, and along the journey, you're actually training other skills. I believe you can save spot them with magic or range, and you're getting a lot while going for the goal in mind. And when you finally get that Rune Scimitar as a drop, you're not like, oh my god, 15,000 GP, whatever, it doesn't really matter. You're like, I can use this now to train my melee, train my Slayer, and you see the item as a more valuable drop than it would be on a main account. Even something as simple as a Rune Scimitar can really make your day when you're first starting an Ironman account. And that's why I fell in love with the game mode, right? Because the simplest activities really make you super excited and kind of feel like a kid again when playing this game. And throughout the time I've been playing this account, I just wanted more and better items, and I had to actually learn the content in order to get them, which is something that I never would have done before. It's kind of the reason why I burnt out of Runescape 3 back in the day, because I saw it as a number value game, right? And it might not have been getting as much gold as possible, but it was getting as much experience as possible. And for what? A 120 cape that really doesn't even matter, right? And I wasn't having fun along the journey, which is something very different when you play an Ironman account. I always feel like unlocking things on your account is a super great thing, but it just feels so much more rewarding to do it on an Ironman account. So I really wanted to set my account up for the best possible path that it could go on, and I thought the way to do that would be going for the quest cape. Now, quests are very different on an Ironman, right? Usually you just walk up to the Grand Exchange with the quest guide on the side and see all the items you need for it, and you buy them, and then you use the Runelite plugin quest helper and finish off the quest. But playing an Ironman account, it's not really that easy, right? You get the quest list items out, and then you have to actually find a way to get them. And some of these items require you to kill a creature you might have never killed before, do a farming activity you might have never done before, maybe do a mini game, maybe get better gear in order to defeat the quest boss, get stuff like stamina potions, and there's just so much involved with it, and you learn so much along the journey. As well, when I played a main account, if I looked at the quest rewards at the end and it wasn't really going to provide much value to my account, I really wouldn't take the time out of my day to do the quest unless I needed it to do another quest or whatever it might be, right? But say a quest takes you an hour and gives you a couple quest points and some useless stuff that you would never use on a main account, I really wouldn't even try and tackle it. And that might have just been my mindset, but I didn't see it benefiting my account in one way or another. But with an Ironman account, the smallest things mean the most. And just even little things like quality of life, getting more quest points to unlock all of the quests in the game. I really just wanted to see if I could complete the quest cape on an Ironman account without ever trading another player. I eventually did that, and I said this isn't enough. I wanted to get the achievement diary cape as well, which is another thing I didn't do too much on a main account. A lot of the achievement diaries give you teleports, little things that might help you throughout the game, like collecting extra resources, whatever it might be, right? Some of them I would complete on a main because they are extremely useful and helpful, but a lot of them I never really tackled on a main account. I did all of the achievement diaries, learned so much along the way, played mini games I've never played before, like Barbarian Assault, and that was a huge learning process, a lot of frustration with that, but at the end of the day it was a lot of fun, and I learned so much about Barbarian Assault and ended up actually getting all of the roles to level 5 for the Elite Diary. And I, along this journey as well, got the Fighter Torso, an item I never got before on a main because I would just buy a Bandos chest plate, right, instead of getting the Fighter Torso. I also learned how to do the Mage Training Arena, which again isn't the most fun minigame, but I grinded it all of the way, got the full Infinity Robes, I got the Master Wand, I got the Mage's Book, and had a blast with that activity as well. Another activity I never would have done on a main account. I eventually ended up maxing the account. It did take like 6 years, and there was a lot learned along the journey, and like things that I never would have done on a main account I ended up doing, and it made the game so much more enjoyable, rewarding, and a lot of fun. Bossing in PVM is something that I've never really been good at or didn't touch too much on a main. I was more focused on Slayer and maxing the account. I started it off with like very simple things like the Barrows Brothers, learned all the mechanics of those, and had a ton of fun collecting all of the Barrows equipment along my maxing journey, of course. I also took on the Money Snake Zalra. That was one of the most difficult things I've ever learned, coming from somebody who does just Slayer, learning mechanics, prayer switching, gear switching. It was a good learning process with Zalra. Eventually, after 1500 kills, I ended up getting the blowpipe. Took a very long time. I learned how to do Vorkath. Vorkath is actually a lot of fun and a boss that I want to do a lot more of in the future. Another money dragon this time. And I worked on some Slayer bosses. I camped the Alchemical Hydra over and over again for a year plus. I got 2,500 kills. Eventually got myself the Dragon Hunter Lance. I took on the Abyssal Sire. I got the Abyssal Bludgeon from him. We took on Cerberus. Got all 3 of the boot upgrades for the account. We took on the Dagonoth Kings. Got all of the rings. And finally, we got a Dragon Axe. Kind of crazy that it took us this long to do so. We hopped on to General Gardor at the Bandos boss, finally got melee gear upgrades, which is something I probably should have done before maxing my account. We even took on like Kirill as well, and a bunch of the other God Wars bosses for the achievement diaries, and also for the Zamorak Spear. And after that, you know, we just kind of did what we wanted to do. I figured it was time to finally upgrade my range gear setup as well, so I started by learning the gauntlet. Now this took me a very long time, and eventually I worked up the courage to do the corrupted gauntlet. Corrupted gauntlet is something I think everyone should learn in RuneScape because it teaches you a lot about other bossing, a lot about timing, gear switching, overhead prayers, run energy, dodging things. It's a crazy boss, and you have to do it in a time limit as well. So it really makes you focus. And I feel like if you can do the corrupted gauntlet, then you can learn any activity in the game. I feel like that way for sure. Yeah, Corrupted Gauntlet was a lot of fun. I actually got really lucky with the Corrupted Gauntlet. We got an insane collection log. We finished it off. We got the pet. We got the Blade of Salador. We got the Bofa. We got the full crystal gear and only 276 kills. Lots of deaths in there too, but in 276 kills, that's actually phenomenal. Once I had some melee gear and some range gear, I figured it was time to start learning raids, some content that I've really been putting off because I'm a skiller, not a killer. And I started with the Tombs of a Masket because it was, it was newer content, and I really wanted the Fang that it dropped. It was an insanely good melee weapon, and I was still using the whip at this time, right? I've never really tackled any raids, and I thought the Tombs of a Masket would be a great place to start. That was another couple months of my life learning this, and it's a hard piece of content for sure. I wouldn't say it's the hardest raid in the game, because you can kind of scale it, which is something I like. I wish other raids kind of did something similar to this, where you can scale it with the invocation system. And it took me a long time to do it, but I ended up soloing about 200 of the raids, and I got the items that I wanted. When doing raids, you learn a lot about the game. Now with raids, you can do them with teams or you can solo them, right? So I did a bunch of both. I kind of like started learning with teams at the Tombs of a Masket, and it was a lot of fun. There was a lot definitely learned in the raid itself. You kind of have to manage your supplies, manage your time, learn each mechanic of the different bosses, pick the order of the bosses that you want to do them in, and hope for the best and try and get the kill. Now, it was a lot of fun doing this over and over and over again, but it can be really tedious because sometimes the raids can take anywhere from 30 minutes all the way up to an hour long, and you might have done it for like a 200k loot or something even worse than that, right? But there's not a better feeling ever, I think, than getting a purple at raids, especially if it's solo and you never really know what you're gonna get. As of right now, I'm learning the Chambers of Xeric, which was actually the first raid introduced into RuneScape. Now, I'm not the best at this. There is still a lot for me to learn. I don't really know the timing all that well. I really need to get the timing down. I think that's what it is. But I'm having an absolute blast. This is probably the most addicted I've ever been into RuneScape again in the past couple of years, right? Corrupted Gauntlet really took over my life. The Tombs of a Masket really took over my life. But the Chambers of Xeric is a whole new level. There's so much to learn, and the getting through the rooms themselves fairly easy. It's the final fight that you have to be pretty much tick perfect on in order to get deathless kills, and I'm working my way up to be able to do that. But as you can see, I'm making a ton of mistakes. My timing is really off, and I don't have the best gear in order to do this. Now I do have the Dragon Hunter Lance, which is a W for sure. I'd like the Dragon Hunter crossbow, and it would be so insane if I ended up getting a twisted bow on this account. So I'm going to spend the next couple of months here trying to learn it, get a couple hundred solo kills. And another great thing about this raid is I finally get to unlock the other prayers. I have a maxed account, took on all these bosses without getting Rigor or Augury. Now I did actually recently just get Augury. It was my first purple chest, and yeah, that's some motivation to keep going right here. But Rigor would be awesome because range is my favorite combat style in the entire game, and I really think it would be so cool to unlock, and it would really help me with all of the content in the game that I do from here onwards. And if I get the twisted bow, then it makes the game super fun and super easy, a lot easier than it would be without it. But yeah, anyways, I think Iron Man made me a decent player at the game. made me do things that I would never do on a main account, made me go out of my way and kind of like learn the game as a whole. There's so much about this game that if you play a main account, you will never touch or never do because it wouldn't be efficient for you to do, and you'd rather do the fun content, right? Make the money, like I was saying, in order to buy the gear rather than going and chasing the gear yourself. Now, some people, you know, do raids and they do PVM and they do all this stuff on a main account, right? But at the end of the day, if you get a duplicate drop, you're gonna sell it, you know? You gotta like complete the collection log. You gotta, like, say I was doing the Chambers of Xeric, right, on a main account. I get 2 twisted bows. I could buy every single of the collection log drops, no problem, with just those 2 drops, right? Rather than I could go dry at, say, the Dragon Hunter crossbow for 1,000 kills, right? So you really have to dedicate yourself if you want to play an Ironman account and complete those collection logs. But yeah, I'm working on the Chambers of Xeric. I also want to do some more clue scrolls, unlock the music cape, and eventually get the completionist cape if it ever comes out. It definitely can be frustrating at times if you don't receive the drop you're going for, or if there is a piece of content in the game that you just really can't do. And now this has happened to me sometimes, right? Where I've tried over and over and over and over again, right? And I really wish I could just go to the Grand Exchange, buy some better gear, or just totally avoid this piece of content and never touch it and just buy the drops with gold. But at the end of the day, you're never going to learn if you do that. So I've learned so much by playing an Ironman account, and I believe it has really made me a better player overall. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching the video today. I will catch you guys in the next one. See ya later. Oh my god. We got an Arcane Prayer Scroll on Raid 15. We did get 24,000 points there. We did the suicide method where we came in, dropped a bunch of potions, and just sent the raid. But look at that purple. Oh my god. I don't even know which one this is. I think this is the magic one, right? Oh my god.